No matter where you come from, no matter where you're going, here's a place where you can take comfort in the knowing that whether if you've come to stay a while or just passing through, this door is open to you. Come and let's be silent. Come and share a hug. Come, let's pray together. Come, love and be loved. From the blissed out to the turned out, from the pampered to the abused, this door is open to you. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. The God in us recognizes the God in you. The God in you. Whether you're black or white, gay or straight, Christian, Buddhist or Jew, this door is open to you. If there's some kind of trouble or pain you're going through, know that you are not alone and someone cares for you. As an individualization of divine point of view, this door is open to you. This door is open. This door right here, this door is open to you. Is open for you. This door is open to you. This door is open. I'm talking about this door.
Good morning. This door is open to each and every one of you. How many of you were up early enough to see the snow this morning? It really did happen. It came and it left, kind of like Santa Claus. And so now here we are. Welcome this beautiful morning. And each of us that are in the building, turn and wave at the live stream, our cameras, to welcome each and every one that are joining us here today. We always like to gather ourselves in that spirit of oneness. And so I invite you to join in a time of opening prayer. This morning we turn our awareness within in that great dimension of who we are that is so much more than the eye can see or the physical touch can apprehend. We turn our awareness within, which really takes us beyond and over and through and a part of all that is. Today we explore spiritual power and what that really means for us. We open to the gifts that are here for us as an individual, the gifts that flow through us individually and begin to touch and unite and heal. We give thanks for this beautiful day and this time together in spirit and in truth. Thank you, God, and so it is. Amen. Thank you again for being here on this auspicious Sunday. It's Super Bowl Sunday, if that means anything to you. It's Sunday before Valentine's Day, and hopefully that means something to you. And it's another day to be up and upright and moving about on planet Earth, and I know that means something to you. We like to acknowledge our Sunday school program, our children. If we have young people, children that are not yet in the back and would like to be a part of the Sunday school experience, Reverend Gabby and Reverend Barbara Ann would like to welcome you to come over. And we bless our young people by reminding them that we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divinity in you. Would you affirm that to them together? We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divinity in you. Have a wonderful Sunday school experience this morning. We're always blessed with this amazing band. We're blessed with our singers, and you can count it a double blessing when we have the Williams sisters in the house. And today we have both Kat and Mary Kay. Most of you probably know that our very own Kat Williams is a sergeant with our local sheriff's department, and so she's only here every other Sunday. And we're so thankful that she can be here with us. And Mary Kay Williams travels throughout a lot of the year, so when they're both here at the same time, and especially when we have our own whole band back, would you give it up for Dave, Richard, Joel, Pete, and Joey? We want to thank them. They're going to kick it off with a song by J.D. Martin and Jan Garrett that says, "Down in My Soul."
down in my soul.
Down in my soul.
I hear the music.
I hear the music.
Down in my soul.
Down in my soul.
I hear the music.
I hear the music.
Down in my soul.
Down in my soul.
And the
whole wide world is my home.
I got a new day.
I've got a new day.
Down in my soul.
Down in my soul.
I got a new day.
I've got a new day.
Down in my soul.
Down in my soul.
I've got a new day.
I've got a new day.
Down in my soul.
Down in my soul.
And the whole wide world is my home. I love the silence down in my soul. I love the silence down in my soul. I love the silence down in my soul. And the whole wide
World is my home.
I feel the power down in my soul. I feel the power down in my soul. Oh, I feel the power down in my soul. And the whole wide world is my home. Oh, yes, it is. And the whole wide world is mine.
Yeah. Kat and Mary Kay Williams, don't go far. The whole wide world is my soul. We're going to ask you to take this opportunity to stand and to turn and just acknowledge, we're in these COVID times that we'll talk about in history and say, thank God we never have to go through that again, hopefully. But we take this opportunity to intentionally connect with one another. We can still see, we can still extend through our energy, and take an opportunity to turn and extend yourself to our live streamers. We extend our welcome to each and every one of you, and we want to thank you for being here. Thank you, and you may be seated. We're in the midst of a series that is based on 12 powers, and today we talk about the power of power. And I asked Reverend Deborah O'Gees to join me for just to kind of highlight something. The month of February is also Black History Month. I think it could perhaps be best understood. It's American history understood perhaps through the black experience, and helping those of us that didn't live that experience or aren't as familiar with it to go back and look at history through that context, and to hopefully build understanding and inclusivity and create a more accurate picture of what brings us to here we are today. We're really blessed in this ministry. Yes, that's so true. We're blessed in this ministry to have a number of support ministers, volunteer ministers. Reverend Morgan Barclay is here. I saw Morgan somewhere. There you are, Morgan. And Reverend Deborah O'Gees is also one of their support ministers, and she is the minister of spiritual enrichment, and she really helps bring that diverse perspective and joining with us in all different levels. She is a wonderful teacher. She's been teaching since last year about the 12 powers, so she's offering a way to go deeper with these powers. But she she also was guided along with Vern. I don't think Vern's here today, but another individual from our congregation. They host a monthly forum that is called BIPOC Raw, BIPOC. Will you tell people, Rev. Deborah, what does BIPOC stand for?
Well, BIPOC is Black, Indigenous, People of Color. And the reason that we call it raw is because on the platform, on the show, we get raw. What we do is we speak to the issues that happen in BIPOC communities across the board in a way that we would not necessarily speak to people who don't look like us. So the show is not about guilt, because guilt is an emotionless emotion. It has no purpose. It's about understanding and moving forward together to create a space where we can all heal. So every month we come on and we have a guest and we have these conversations.
It's a beautiful experience. It's on Zoom once a month. It's this week, Wednesday night, 7:15. Rev. Deborah, Vern will be there, and your guest this month is?
Betty Council. And Miss Betty, which all the kids call her in Asheville, is a community activist in Asheville. She's a fabulous woman who first took building bridges when it first started, and that's when she was aware, okay, there's some inequality here. There's a lot of disparity in this area. Then she went on and she did REI, and she went deeper into understanding the differences in the way different people see things. Because this work is not about, you did this. It's about, how can I see it from your point of view? And then switch it so that we're all on one page of healing and love.
So every month, it's powerful. And Rev. Deborah finds these guests. So that's the guest coming up Wednesday night. And just kind of a shout out, for example, next month, who's the guest?
Oh, we have this wonderful woman coming. And this is really great because she heard from a coworker about BIPOC Raw. Went on the show, and now she wants to be part of it. She lives in British Columbia. She's a counselor. Her native language is Punjab, am I saying that right? Punjab. And she says she's multicultural. But she works in the psychology field, and she started a whole organization to deal with the imbalance of how certain types of therapy is given to certain parts of the community in British Columbia. And her name is Parmin Thin. And she's going to be a wonderful addition to the BIPOC Raw show.
So that'll be in March. So we'll keep you informed, but if you go to our website, check these out. You get the opportunity to interact on Zoom. Part of it is listen, you hear the experience, but it's open forum. Everyone's invited. And the purpose of that is so that we all gain in understanding. So Rev. Deborah, I want to thank you on behalf of this whole congregation for being here and for bringing what you do to each and every one of us. Would you show her your love? Thank you so much. Thank you.
I would like to thank Unity of the Blue Ridge because there aren't too many organizations that would give a platform to this conversation. So for the inspiration and foresight that Reverend Darlene has with the healings amongst our communities, I am very grateful.
Well, that's mutual. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We are the way, as we say. We're creating that space. Thank you, Rev. Deborah. Today we're going to be talking about power, what it is not, and how we tap into the true spirit of power and our spiritual power. Kat's going to share a beautiful song with us that, listen to the lyrics of the song as it speaks to our individual empowerment.
used to think that I could not go on, and life was nothing but an awful song. But now I know the meaning of true love. I'm leaning on the everlasting arms. If I can see it, then I can do it. If I just believe it, there's nothing to it. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. I see me running through that open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. See, I was on the verge of breaking down. Sometimes silence can seem so loud. There are miracles in life I must achieve. But first I know it starts inside of me. Oh, if I can see it, then I can do it. Oh, if I just believe it, there's nothing to it. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. I spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. I see me running through that open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. Oh, I believe I can fly. Woo! Yeah, 'cause I believe in miracles. Oh, if I can see it, then I can do it. If I just believe it, there's nothing to it. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. I spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. It keeps me running through that open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. If I just spread my wings, I can fly. I can fly. I can fly. If I just spread my wings, I can fly. Woo! I can fly. If I just spread my wings, I can fly.
Cat Williams and this Unity Band, you just did fly. Wow, that was absolutely gorgeous. Thank you so much. Thank you. So do you feel empowered just by that song? We've been in a series, the 12 powers, that we're looking at, in each of them being an aspect of who we are as an expression of all that is. They're part of our nature as a spirit being human. We already have these powers, these capabilities, attributes we could call them, but it's a matter of opening to them. We started a few weeks ago, and we've talked about faith, that faith is being spiritually established. It's the establishment of your spiritual being. We talked about strength as being spiritually enabled. It's the establishment of your spirit being enabled. We talked about love and how love is being spiritually impressed and expressed. It's your spirit being impressed and expressed. Last week, Megan Goshevsky did a beautiful job when she talked about wisdom. And as the universe would have it, the hem of her skirt fell out just before the service. And what is a wise one to do? I remember something like that happened to me in Lawrence one time, and someone ran and got a staple, and I'm like, no, we're not going to staple it. We'll just deal with it. And that's exactly what she did, that wisdom is our being. It's the doorway of spiritual discernment, of good judgment. It's the doorway of enlightenment. And she did a beautiful job with that. And so today that leads us to power, being spiritually empowered. What does that really mean? A number of years ago, back in the 1950s, a man named Rao, R-A-O, a Hindu holy man from India who really flirted with fame in the United States. He was here, he was teaching, he was growing in his followers. He had a number of celebrities following him. The most prominent was the millionaire heiress Doris Duke. And so he was rising quickly to fame in the United States as a teacher and as an individual who could do very powerful spiritual things. And so the day arrived when Raul was so confident in his own spiritual power that he publicly announced that he would walk on water before a live audience. He sold tickets, $100 a piece, and people turned out en masse to watch him walk on water. And so that day, as the crowd gathered, this white bearded yogi in his white robe stood out at the edge of a pool. And it says that he looked up and he paused for a moment, and this reverent hush fell across the large crowd. And he stepped out, and the minute he stepped forward, he immediately went under in this awkward, just falling under the water. And so here he is with a robe trying to get himself out. His robe is now wrapping itself around his head. People start to giggle, and he makes his way out of the water, and he gets up and he straightens himself and he looks out and he says, "Who among you is a disbeliever? One of you is not a believer." It was recorded in the paper. Needless to say, he didn't stay around very much longer. Now, contrast that concept of power with this. There's a beautiful poem by Langston Hughes, and the poem is simply titled "About Helen Keller." Langston Hughes wrote, "She in the dark found light, brighter than many eyes ever see. She within herself found loveliness through her own soul's mystery. And from now the world receives from her dower the message of soul, strength, and inner power." To me, those two are just a beautiful example of our ideas around power. What is power? When I've talked a lot in this series about words, that the minute we say the word faith or strength or love, we have these images come to mind. And it's not that image doesn't convey a meaning, but part of our goal in this series has been to even bring more mindfulness to our words and to create more spaciousness around our words. And so today we want to create some spaciousness around power and open up to really understand what is the gift that our soul is ready for us to receive when it comes to spiritual power. Let's say a little bit about some of the obvious stuff. When we talk about power, a lot of people equate power to status, success, money, influence. To some, power means great privilege and carries great responsibility. To some, power equates to force and throwing one's weight around. Some see power as a gift, and quite frankly, some see power as evil. Power is most often understood from a dualistic perspective. For example, we tend to think of power as power over or power against or being overpowered. An example of this is a story about a young college graduate who landed after he graduated from college. He was one of the top in his class, and he landed a great job with the Department of Agriculture. He went through several weeks of rigorous training, and he was finally ready to go out on his own. What he did is he inspected farms throughout the United States. And as the story goes, he arrived the first week at this big popular farm in New Hampshire. And he found the farmer who was the owner-operator, and he said, "Sir, my name is so-and-so. I'm here from the Department of Agriculture. I'm here to inspect your farm." And the farmer said, "Do whatever you please, but I just don't go in that pasture there by the barn." And the young man puffed out his chest and pointed to his badge and said, "You see this badge, sir? This badge is from the United States government. It allows me to walk on any farm, anywhere, any piece of agriculture in this whole country. This badge gives me the right to go anywhere I want on your farm." And the farmer didn't skip a beat. He said, "Do whatever you need to do, son, but I would stay away from that." And he didn't even listen. He just walked off. So the farmer went back to his chores, and in less than a half an hour, he heard these terrible screams. And he looked up, and sure enough, the young man had made his way into that pasture where the farmer kept his prized horned bull. And as the bull was chasing the young boy around and around, and the guy is now screaming, "Mister, help, help, open the gate, help, help, help." And as the farmer's making his way over, he starts shouting, show him your badge, son. Show him your badge. Show him your badge." A lot of times in life, we relate to power at the level of badges and bulls, badges and bullies. We tend to equate power to having ownership or having something in our possession that gives us right or privilege or safety or security. And let's talk about, when we talk about power, we also need to talk about the fact that power is often abused, that there is a terrible misuse of power, and that many people really do equate power with force. Dr. David Hawkins has written a book titled Power versus Force. It's a very good book, and we tend to sort of confuse those things, but that's not the power that we're talking about. You see, it's not true power because it's not enduring. It's trying to rely on the unreliable. It's trying to source our well-being from something outside of ourselves. That true power, spiritual power, is the life force of God. It is the transformative power that enlivens and empowers. The true power is what is right now animating you. It is that which is behind the life of you, the strength of you. The power is that which we may look outside and you look at those trees, and if you just landed on this planet and looked at those trees, you'd say, well, they're surely dead. There's nothing there. But we know that there's a life energy. There is a power within them that is right now transforming and renewing and bringing forth. And so the power of which we speak is that power. It's the power of self-mastery. It's the power of being in relationship. In nature, we don't put the power in nature. We don't put the power in Niagara Falls, but we have learned to tap into the power of Niagara Falls. We don't put the power into gravity, but we've learned how to harness the power and use that. And so we don't put the power in our own life, but as Jesus and the other master teachers taught, you can so master this self that you become an instrument of greater power. How many of you have a desire to be an instrument of greater power and greater love? and to feel that genuine sense of empowerment that no matter the badges and no matter the bulls, no matter where I find myself, they may harm the body, they may take the life, but they can never extinguish that part of me that knows that it is I am, that I am, that I am, that knows that it is well with my soul. And as we connect with that level of intimacy and power, as we make that our ultimate goal and we seek that first, as we seek to go to the well and fill ourselves from within with that level of knowledge, then we can go out and encounter the badges and the bullies. We can carry our own badges and yet walk on this earth in a way that would harm none. That's the most powerful person on earth, in my opinion. The Upanishads, the Hindu text, says, the boundless power, source of every power, manifesting itself as life, entering every heart, living there among the elements, becoming self. It's that one power that animates all life. And so our goal with spiritual power is to be in right relationship with our personal power and with the source of empowerment. How many of you know yourself as a being of power? Yeah. Whether you know it or not, you're a being of great power. So the goal, to be in right relationship with our personal power and with the source of empowerment. If we turn to the Christian scriptures, Jesus had a lot to say about power, in particular hierarchical power, structure, force. Jesus taught about, he said, it's not an eye for an eye. Don't try to resist evil. Don't resist evil. He was saying, don't get caught up in the badges and the bulls or the bullies. He taught to turn the other cheek. His audience thought, how is that powerful? He said, he who is first, he who is the highest shall be the lowest, and he who is the lowest shall be the highest. And they thought, that makes no sense. How is that power? He said, the meek shall inherit the earth. The poor in spirit shall see God. He turned things upside down. He said, whosoever shall humble himself as this little child, the same is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And when making his long-awaited entrance on Passover, making his long-awaited entrance into Jerusalem, he did not ride in the customary stallion. He rode in on a what? A little donkey. The disciple Philip represents inner power. Philip represents the one who has the ability to attain self-mastery. Because when you truly come to know yourself, you discover the source of who you are beyond the form of your being. To know self is to know eternal self, is to know the I am, is to know God, is to know yourself as an outlet of all that is. And so the disciple Philip is about inner power, self-actualization, and self-mastery. As I said a few minutes ago, it doesn't mean that that force doesn't exist, that power isn't misused, because it is. But our goal is to unplug at that level, because if we constantly try to fight at that level, we're really just adding to it. But to come from a place of genuine empowerment, and from that place there's a guidance and a direction and an enabling and empowerment that truly allows us to overcome. My first ministry in Lawrence, Kansas, in a few years, the church had really grown, and our youth program just exploded. That area is a college. There were a lot of young kids. In a matter of less than 3 years, we had over 50 children in Sunday school. And so we had the joy of hiring an associate minister to come in and work primarily with our children. We hired the Reverend Jane Simmons, and her husband is the Reverend Dr. Gary Simmons. They're both Unity ministers, and so I was happy because we hired one and got two that came and joined us. And I had the chance to get to know Gary really well, and he's a very interesting individual. He's today a Unity minister. He's an author. He's an airplane pilot. But in his earlier life, he was a sensei. What Gary did, he's a 4th-degree black belt in Taekwondo. I don't really know what that means, but I think it's something to be impressed about. What he did, he owned his own martial arts studio. And so one day Gary told me a story that I never forgot. He said that this young boy, a young mother came to him with her son, who I believe was in the 4th grade. Her son was about 9 years old, kind of a scrawny little guy. He's the kind of guy that didn't really fit in, and he got picked on. He didn't have a dad. It's just him and his mom. And this little boy was constantly in the principal's office. He was being sent home from school because he was fighting at school. He was never winning those fights, but he was fighting. And not only at school, but around the neighborhood. He was just the guy that kept constantly winding up in fights, and he was really hurting him. And so his mom, at her wit's end, went to the martial arts studio, and she encountered Gary and said, "Can you help? I'm literally afraid for my son. He has got to learn how to defend himself." And so Gary began to work with this young boy. And the mom didn't notice a lot at first. You know, the young boy would come home and he'd show her a few moves and a few things. But as the weeks went by and as the months went by, as happens in the martial arts, he began to earn his belts of accomplishment. But as they began to enter the next school year, and that school year had been going on now for a couple of months, the mom noticed that one night at dinner, she said, "Son, you've not been to the principal's office once this year. You hadn't been in a single fight." And she looked at her son and she said, "Is that because they're afraid of you? Did you show them what you can do?" And he said, "No, Mom. It's because I'm not afraid anymore, so I don't need to fight." And she went and talked to Gary about that. And Gary said that one of the practices he has, you know, when he has his young audience of students and he is this 4th degree black belt and can do all this stuff, they're very impressed. One of the first things he does is he takes his black belt off and he throws it down. And he said, "Now, let me ask you a question. What is that belt going to do for me? Can that belt defend me? What does that belt do for me?" And it was that same little boy that raised his hand and said, "Sensei, that belt just reminds you of what you know about yourself." Isn't that powerful? You see, that little boy had connected with something inside. He had connected with a source of personal empowerment that says, "You're okay." He had connected with a source of personal empowerment that says, "You're developing some skills, you're okay. There may be a time you have to fight, and if you do and if you don't win, guess what? You're still okay." That you can walk in this world being in relationship with your own power. It's incredibly transformational when that happens. It reminded me of a story by Raymond Moody. Raymond Moody wrote a book titled Reflections on Life After Life. And in the book, he shares a story of a veteran of World War II who described an experience that he had while serving in war. He said, "I was serving in the infantry in Europe. I had an experience I will never forget. We saw enemy airplanes diving toward the building we were in. It had opened fire on us, and dust from the bullets were headed in a path directly toward us." He said, "I was literally scared to death, and I knew that probably in that moment, my life was going to end." He said, "I took a deep breath, and I didn't see anything, but just like that, all of a sudden, I felt a warm, wonderful, comforting presence right there with me. And a kind, gentle voice said, 'I am here with you, Reed. Your time has not yet come.'" He said, just like that, I was so comfortable in that presence. And he said, since that day, I've never been afraid of death. But more importantly, since that day, I've understood that power is nothing outside of me. Power is that wonderful, comforting presence that is always here with me. It is that abiding spirit that leads us to fear not. That's power. I mean, can you start to sense it and feel that within you? In the martial arts, that source of power is often referred to as chi, life energy. In many healing modalities, it's also called chi or life energies. In some spiritual scriptures, it's called Holy Spirit. or the activity, the presence of life that flows through all. Again, those are just words trying to point to this same dimension, this animating presence within us. But the chi is that quiet force within you that knows when to act and when to move and gives you strength to do so. It's that in which we live and move and have our being. Eric Butterworth, a great unity writer and minister, he wrote a book titled Discover the Power Within You. And he said, there is that of you that is greater than your weakness, stronger than your fears. It is even whole within your sickness. There's that of you that is the perfect idea in the mind of God. You are simply asleep to the greater self, your innate divinity. As Paul says in Ephesians, awake, thou that sleepest, that Christ may shine upon thee. And what is Christ but your own divinity, that particularization of infinite source of life? It is the perfect seed, the perfect power, the source of all power. It is whole, and it is you. It is the point of God expressing as you, that we are that inlet and that outlet. And so how do we begin to make this idea practical? Well, I'm glad you asked, because let's take it to that level for just a couple of minutes. Our spiritual power, this animating presence, the power of power. 3 things to consider. Number 1, power is born of connection. If you don't believe it, in the midst of somebody watching the Super Bowl today, right when you think they're going to make a touchdown, go pull and disconnect the power. The power is in. Joe's like, don't you do that. The power is in the connection. There's so many stories, so many scriptures that talk about the power being in the connection. The story of the man who was the cripple by the pool of Bethesda, waiting for someone to move him in when he encounters Jesus, and he's asked, what do you want? And to rise up as much as you can. Use your power to touch your higher power. Anybody in a 12-step program knows the power of rising up and laying hold of your higher power. Whether you see that power as outside of you or whether you see that power as an intimate part of you, I don't think it really matters, as long as you lay hold of that power and let it change you. Amen? Because that's the goal, is to become an instrument for that power. There's another story in the Bible. It's a story that comes from, I want to say, the Gospel of Luke. It's titled The Woman with the Issue of Blood. It's a woman who for 12 years had been hemorrhaging, and in that culture, blood, you couldn't touch blood. And so any time, if it was a woman, her time of month, or anyone bleeding, you were put into a separate tent. You were segregated. This woman had been stuck there for 12 years. She's separated for 12 years, and it says that she was weak and she had spent all of her money. It paints a picture of when you feel disconnected, when you feel at the end of your resourcefulness, when there's nothing else you can do. The one thing she did was she finally made her way out of that tent, which was against the rules, but she made her way out of that tent, and she found that man named Jesus, and she touched the hem of his garment. And in that moment, he stopped in the crowd and said, "Who just touched me?" And the disciples looked at him, and I'm paraphrasing, but they said, "Jesus, are you crazy? There's a multitude of people surrounding you. What do you mean, who touched you?" And he said, No. I mean, who touched that within me which animates me? Who touched that within me that animates all of life? Because something just flowed through me and flowed right into them. And he discovered that this woman had touched him, and it was through her ability to touch that which she knew was the source of true empowerment. That was what made her whole, as the story goes. That power is born through connection of however and how often. How many of you have some practice for making a daily connection? I hope you do, because Lord knows we need it. It is very easy to come apart and disconnected. So the first is to just realize that our power flows through our being in conscious connection. Number 2, our power flows through intention. There's a saying in the energy world that says, energy flows where attention goes. In Hawaii, they say mana. Mana is life energy, spiritual energy. Mana flows, energy flows where attention goes. They really know the power of your intention and your attention, and how that whatever you're holding in your intentions and whatever you are giving your attention to, you are empowering, you're giving your power to that. And so in Hawaii, just like here, we have around our house hedges, there's some popular common things you'd see. In Hawaii, surrounding all the buildings and all over the place, you're going to see tea plants, T-I. These beautiful plants are considered very, very spiritual because they're considered to be holders and gateways of mana, of life energy. And so the Hawaiians have them all around their house. And the minute they step out the door to go somewhere, they turn and they will touch one of those. They use those tea leaves inside the house to clear it occasionally. But they'll touch those leaves and they'll say just a quick prayer of, may my attention and may my intention be aligned in service to the highest good. And then when they get back home, before they go into their very own, in the homes in Hawaii, you don't wear shoes. They take off the shoes and you touch the tea plants to let go of wherever you've gone astray. And would you once again align my attention and intention? Isn't that a powerful practice? That power flows through our attention and intention. This week, we have a staff meeting every Tuesday. And this week, our youth teachers were talking to us about Sunday school. Children have really been through a challenging time. If you think the last 2 years were challenging for adults, just imagine a child. Children who were sequestered at home, who have been exposed to the fear, the panic, the chaos, the arguing. Children who are now behind masks and have had to distance and can't interact. And a lot of times young children just don't know what to do with that, so they take that stuff on. And we were talking about that and how a lot of the children are carrying that, and I literally felt an idea come in. And so I shared with Reverend Barbara Ann and Reverend Gabby, and they're going to do this. I said, well, what if every Sunday you created space for yuck time? I said, let's go buy some of that slime, yuck time, Y-U-C-K. I said, go buy some of that, that slime that kids play with? I said, buy some slime and just get some little pieces of paper. And just have the kids sit down and say, we're going to have a few minutes of yuck time. So, Sally, what's something yucky bothering you? Billy pulled my hair in class, or yuck, whatever it is. She gets to say all of her yuck things. What's the yuck that's hanging around? What's some yuck you wish you'd go away? Now, when all the kids get to share a few minutes of yuck, they're going to quickly notice they all have a lot of similar yuck in common. And in a few minutes, they're going to be sitting in a room with these little pieces of paper with little slime balls on them, looking at all the yuck, and hopefully they've coughed up all the fur balls and got it up, and we've got all that stuff out there. And then we're going to say something like, so here we are in the midst of this yuck, how can we be okay? Now, this is where the genius of a child will kick in. I cannot wait to hear their answers. How, in the midst of all of this, can we be okay? We're more than the yuck. As I began to think about that, I thought maybe we need a big yuck party. That for our attention and our intention, sometimes we're so clogged up with how we got slimed and what we don't want that we can't grasp a hold of our attention and intention. And it's not that we're doing anything wrong. It's just we're going through the goo. When the caterpillar becomes the butterfly, there's a process of where it turns to goo. If you hadn't noticed, we're going through some ugly goo. And so you have to savvy up your goo skills. And so how to deal with the yuck. And unity and affirmations is not about denying the yuck. I want to say that out loud. It's about releasing the power that they have over our ultimate state of being. Amen? There's a huge difference there. But you cannot connect with what is true and what is real until you're willing to be honest about what's got you weighted down, Whether it's rubbing the tea leaves or creating an exercise to get rid of the yuck, our power flows through our connections. Our power flows through our intention and attention. Richard, would you give me the song? And our power flows through our embodied presence. Embodied presence. In Unity, we emphasize again and again the difference between Jesus and each and every one of us is not one of inherent spiritual capacity, but simply the demonstration of it. That what he always taught and what he claimed for himself, he claimed for all of us. And that our purpose and our goal is, like St. Francis said, make me an instrument. I want to become the tap for this power and energy to flow, to become an embodied presence. Power flows through our connection. Power flows through our attention and intention. And power flows through our embodied presence. We're here to be the way of true power. Power that can walk in the midst. In the 23rd Psalm, it says, "Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies," not in the absence of. That in the presence of whatever feels adversarial, in the presence of whatever I'm struggling with, in the presence of whatever I may be slipping into this power struggle, in the presence of, there is a source of infinite power. There is something that is always there to liberate me. And when we can enter into that state of personal liberation and personal empowerment, then we can show up and do what's ours to do in a way that truly makes a difference. So we want to anchor this in a time of meditation, and I've chosen a song. This is a reach back to an old gospel song that refers to the scripture where Jesus has the longest discourse in the Bible with a woman at the well called the Samaritan woman. This woman was disenfranchised, disempowered. She was there in the middle of the day because she was wrapped in shame. And she encountered him, and the longest conversation, again, recorded in the Bible, took place there. And what was uncovered is he was talking to her and saying that the source of your power, the source of all power, the source of your worth and worthiness, the source of all worth, comes from a well and a river that never runs dry. It can't be given to you by man, and it can't be taken away by man. And if you can connect with that dimension of yourself that draws its value, that draws its power, that draws its empowerment from that dimension of your being, well, you'll be traveling about planet Earth in a way that is truly in alignment with your soul. And the song goes like this. There is a river that flows from deep within, and there is a power that frees the soul from so come to this water. There is a vast supply. Oh, there is a river that never shall run dry. I invite you to close your eyes, and through using your imagination to just see yourself gently slip into the edge very safely without fear, the edge of the river. And you're in this river in a way where you feel completely safe, completely held. And as you just imagine yourself in this beautiful river, absolutely safe, absolutely lifted and held, you You feel the warmth of the sun. There's nothing or no one around. It's just you in this exquisite natural beauty. You feel the warmth of the water and what it feels like to be held. This is the place in which you live and move and have your being. There is a dimension of your being. It transcends any given experience, and yet it is present in every experience to the degree that we are present to it. There's a dimension of your being that knows itself as completely held and sourced in the great river of life. There's a dimension of yourself that does not even know lack. This does not even know disempowerment or shame or disconnect. There's a dimension of yourself that is fully connected, vibrant. And through that capacity of our being, we're fully connected. And that means that whenever we need power, whenever we need creativity, whenever we need vitality, that whatever our soul legitimately needs, it's right there. It cannot be otherwise. It is there. It is present. And it shows up as a state of being through your states of being. You embody these states of being. And in that embodied state of being, there is a sense of all is well in my soul. There is a sense of living beyond fear. There's a perfect peace. And there is a sense of becoming now an outlet. That the life energy that radiates and animates and flows through you now begins to move through you in the form of a great idea, in the form of a healing touch, in the form of a wise word, in the form of one who will stand in their truth irregardless of what may be whirling around in circumstances. You have within you the greatest power that has ever been known. That is the power of your life. And so, Holy Spirit, as a spiritual community, we seek to be outlets of that power in a way that is most compassionate and wise and loving. We seek to be instruments of healing and peace and enlightenment. We seek to be instruments of a way that would harm none. We seek to be able to stand up and show up and speak up and have it be the voice of God, the voice of wisdom, the voice that will heal and transform. We seek to be an opening, an inlet, and an outlet to that great presence and that great power. That is why we are here. And so we open to a deeper sense of connectedness. We bring mindfulness and perhaps some new practices around our attention and our intention, and knowing how to keep it clear, to deal with the yuck so that we can discover who we are beyond that. And we dedicate ourselves to being the embodied presence of God, that which we are already created to be. And for this we give thanks. So there is a river that flows from deep within, and there is a power that frees the soul from fear. flows through the connection. Power flows through the intention and attention. Power flows through the embodied presence. And so I invite you to stand. And as you connect with your power, your ability to do so, to just send a blessing out to someone. Pick anyone, but put a face to it. It can be a furry face, but put a face to it and send a blessing out to someone. And we're going to take this minute. I want you to just join us live streamers in doing this as well. I just really feel our children, all children. So just hold in your mind's eye what it is to be a child and our children right now. And let us just send out that love to them. May this time be a time that they come to discover the power of who they are, even in the midst of great chaos. You see, beautiful butterflies are being born right here with our children, mystical beings they are. And so we send those children this love. And now just pick a stranger's face. Just imagine somebody, you can imagine the face and maybe some attire that looks very different, and send out a blessing. I don't know you, but I know you. And now let's pick a face that is sandpaper for your soul. That didn't take long. Pick a face that just, it's like, ooh, I have to dig deep on this one. I bless the soul. I bless I bless my intentions and our intentions of being our highest and best. Sometimes we have to dig deep for them, but we bless them. And now bring that back to you and give yourself a blessing. Now give yourself a hand. Well done. Well done. Thank you. You may be seated. Spiritual empowerment. So is this going to inspire you this week to work with the idea of power perhaps in a new way? Yeah. If anybody decides to take on the yuck challenge, I'd love to see pictures with slime. Let me know how that turns out. And like I said, I'm really excited to hear when you do this with children and they get all the yuck out and they discover how do we live and how can we still be okay in the midst of this, we're going to marvel at what the wisdom that comes out of those magical beings that we call children. I want to thank you for your presence. Next Sunday is an exciting week. It's our annual meeting. So we have our regular service, and this service tends to end around 11:30, 11:40ish. And then at noon, we will have our annual meeting in here. It's an exciting year. I'm excited to tell you that in some ways we had the best year in the history of this church's 70-year history last year in 2021. So we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. And what was that, and how did it happen, and how do we build on that, and what are we doing going forward? So our board of trustees, our staff are putting a lot of time into this, our volunteers, so we invite you to be here. We'll also be electing or re-electing a couple of board members. Everyone is invited to attend. It will also be live streamed on YouTube. Facebook tends to be very public, and because it's an annual meeting, it'll be on our YouTube channel. So any of you that can't be here, any of our viewers, just go to our Unity website, follow that link to our Unity YouTube channel. Many of you tune in that way anyway, but we will be streaming it live stream on YouTube. But I hope you can come. Feel free to bring a snack, and you'll have time to walk outside between services, have a snack, enjoy yourself, and then we'll come back in for a meeting. I do want to thank you for your presence and support. I again want to thank this amazing band. They've got a beautiful song here that I'm not sure who wrote it, but Mary Kay rewrote it. I do know that.
She rearranged it.
She rearranged it.
Reverend Darlene, I have a little power story. It's actually a yuck story. Is that okay if I tell it?
Absolutely.
What I told you about?
We love yuck stories, don't we?
So often I talk to myself in my car, especially if I'm having troubles and going through things. And there was a couple of things that were just overpowering me. And I was just feeling all these emotions, fear and anger and sadness. And I'm driving, and often I talk to myself. Sometimes it feels like I'm talking to God. Sometimes it feels like I'm talking to the spirit of my father who passed away. And I said, thinking about the anger I said, what am I supposed to do with this? What do I do with this? And I stopped, and right in front of me, there was a window of an SUV that was dirty, and someone had scrawled in there, "Love yourself," with a big heart into the dirt. And I looked at that, and I just started laughing and laughing and laughing, and I could hear my father laughing, and it felt like, you know, the defibrillators on your chest, clear, you know, and it filled me with this power of love, and it has lifted me up since then, and just a little message that, you know, power can come from anywhere and everywhere, and all you got to do is ask. Ask.
Yeah, I love that. Power.
Power.
Nothing can hold us back. Nothing can tear us apart. Not life, not death, not the in-between. This is just the start. Don't let them keep you down. Don't let them push you out. We were made to live, to be fierce like lions, love and forgive. Just keep moving on. Just keep pushing ahead. Yeah, the new has come. All the old is dead. Just keep moving on. Keep your eyes on the road and that love in your heart. Everything's alright. Power. We got that power. We got that power. We got that power. Everything's alright. Power. We got that power. We got that power. We got that power. Everything's alright. Put your hands together. Show your power. Stand up and show that you have power. Claim that power. Keep moving on. Just keep pushing ahead. Yeah, the new has come and all the old is dead. Just keep moving on. Keep your eyes on the road and that love in your heart. Everything's alright. Power, 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 power. Everything's alright. Power, 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 power. Everything's alright. We got that higher love power. We got our hearts set on love. We've got
Whoa, what they said. Power, everything's going to be all right. Yeah. Cat Williams, Mary Kay Williams, and this Unity Band, you lit it up today. Thank you so much for that. So using the prayer and the words, and I heard it was a comedy last week with this, so let's try this together with the power of protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Because wherever you are an expression of God, all that is. Have a wonderful week. You are a blessing. They're going to sing us out. Power.